I know which specific leather section will sell really well. There's one specific that I've sold like 10 of that I've made anywhere from $2,000 to 25 grand on them.
What are some of the practical things that you have come up with in terms of how you need to improve your business in the rest of 2024?
Honestly, like I said before, just hiring the right people. I know that I can't do this by myself. I don't have the time. Neither do I want to do it. I don't really want to be doing all this stuff by myself. I only have a problem of not being able to market if I don't have the money to pay for the marketing. I don't have the problem of having all this cleaning to do if I have the money to hire someone and pay them to do it. So the idea of speed is the faster I can churn these couches and turn it into cash in my pocket, the faster I can solve all these other problems. I think it has more to do with just the status that leather comes with, at least in our area.
Everybody knows Ivy Flip's app is the best way to source couches on Facebook, Craigslist, and OfferUp. But did you know Ivy Flip is also the best way to post couches too? Imagine a world where you list your couch once, and it magically appears across all major marketplaces. That's not a dream, it's your new reality with Ivy Flip. Ivy Flip isn't just a tool, it's your strategic partner in turning your flipping hustle into a thriving, efficient empire. Elevate your couch flipping business today. Discover the power of cross-listing with Ivy Flip. Try the Ivy Flip app today for free. Search Ivy Flip in the Google Play Store or Apple iOS Store now, or click the link in bio.
Alec, thank you for joining me on this episode of The Couch Pod. If you could give the audience a quick little introduction, I'd love to hear about your story.
Thanks for having me on, Charles. I appreciate it. So I started my business. It's called Abundant Home Collections, and our slogan is Abundant Living Starts at Home. We really just like that name, but I started it back in March of 2023, just on the side. I was working a full-time job for an IT company as a manager there. And I didn't really have a background in IT, but I knew the owner through my dad, who's a business consultant, and he was one of his clients. So he kind of got my foot in the door there and started working out. I actually just started as his assistant to the CEO and then was promoted to general manager. And it was a great job. As far as jobs go, I couldn't have asked for more. It was a great boss, great culture, really enjoyed what I was doing. But I started that back in, I think, 2018. So in that time I got married, had a child, and but I was really just, I've always had the itch for entrepreneurship. I had a digital marketing agency before, which did okay, but then it kind of just kind of stalled because I wasn't putting the time into it. I think I was kind of losing passion for it. I think I like businesses that are more hands-on, that I can like physically interact and meet and greet with people and sell a product. I think I'm more into products than services. So that was fine. I was doing that on the side. My boss was really cool about it, letting me even work on the business, at work during downtime. But as that kind of fizzled out, I kind of, like so many other people, discovered couch flipping just from YouTube. And I was just telling my wife, hey, I'm just going to try to buy a couple couches. You mind if I keep them in our dining room, move the table out of the dining room and, throw a couple in our garage, and just started doing that in March. And slowly but surely kept adding and started to see, yeah, I can definitely make some money doing this. This is a lot more tangible. I actually made $1,000 on my first flip. So I was like, man, okay, that's not too bad. And then from March through December, I was just slowly ramping it up. I think I got up to about, I only got up to about 2 or 3 units, or maybe even just 2 for a while. And it was just slow because it was just me. It's funny enough, I started with a Kia Soul and a little trailer. I put a hitch on a Kia Soul and I started pulling my couches on that. So good memories of that. Fortunately, moved up in the world a little bit since then. In, I'd say, November, we got a new truck and a big 14x7 box trailer, which was a big step up. And then I hired my first employee in December, and I formally quit my job starting January 1. So I've been full-time with Abundant now since January 1st. We had a record month January, and we're set to have a record month this month. Well, we already have hit our next record, but we were hoping to get a couple more here in these next few days of February. But
it is a leap year.
It is a leap year, right? I have through Thursday, so I have one extra day.
One more day. It can make a big difference.
Yeah.
So you seem like a young guy. Like, how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 26.
26.
26 tomorrow, actually.
Oh, happy birthday.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, happy early birthday.
Yeah.
Um, so I was just asking because you have the wife, the kids. How
Yep.
has having a family impacted your decision and ability to jump headfirst into something entrepreneurial and, leaving the security of your
Mhm.
employment?
Well, that's family is obviously huge. That's my whole motivation of being an entrepreneur is I want more. I mean, the money's nice, but I'm really more in it for the time and flexibility, so I can spend time with family, which I know that's common for a lot of entrepreneurs. Either it's the money or it's the lifestyle. For me, it's definitely more the lifestyle. The money's great, but the lifestyle is more important. As far as like leaving the security of a job, I was just number one, I'm an entrepreneur at heart, so I wanted the autonomy. I don't like working for a boss. But second of all, I got tired of doing the math and figuring out what I'm making, divide my salary by the number of hours I work at a job. And then, I could be at home making way more, working less even. Obviously when you become an entrepreneur, you end up finding yourself working a lot, and I do enjoy it, but at least I enjoy it now. So, but as far as the security goes, I thought to myself, all right, I'm married and I have a baby. It's not going to get any easier to take the jump than it is right now. It was easier to take the jump before I even had the baby, but now that I have a baby, before I have another one or before our family grows, it's the risk is only going to get stronger and it's only going to get harder to make that jump. So why not jump now? It was kind of my philosophy. And then you always ask like, oh, well, what if it doesn't work out? So I just total mindset shift. Well, what if it does work out? And you kind of need that. Yeah, entrepreneurs need to have that ability to think, how hard could it be, not how hard is it. And when you have that mentality, you can kind of you can put yourself through some stress, a lot of anxiety, like that first month by myself, knowing that, hey, it's no longer just side money now, it's my income. I got to go out and make it happen. Getting through these first couple months, positive cash flow, turning a pretty good profit, even with employees, even with space, overhead. It's just been really encouraging to know, this can work. It does work. I just have to keep growing it.
Yeah, it must have been a huge confidence boost to, come out of the gate and see some success. Right now you have a business partner. So how did that work out? When did you pick him up? And how does the partnership work?
Yeah, so my business partner is actually my dad. So he's more of like a silent partner. I run the business, and basically the way we have it set up is that I draw salary from the business, and then pay all expenses, and then on distributions I take 51%. He takes 49%. He's really more, as like a backstop financially but also, as I mentioned, he's a business consultant. He has a consulting firm. He's just a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of wisdom, helping me think about the business differently, helping me grow it, helping me, solve, major like financial problems that I maybe don't have the understanding or wisdom to handle myself. As well as just a great encouragement. I have a great relationship with him. We've always had a really great relationship. So it's it was kind of just pretty obvious it was a good idea to bring him on. Plus, we had always kind of dreamed of having a business together because I've always been entrepreneurial and he's obviously an entrepreneur. So that was kind of just like a nice logical step to kind of give me a little bit of a backstop too, to know that, hey, I have a little bit of a fallback in case things get tough for a couple months. But fortunately, we haven't needed to use that, and it's been a great experience so far. And we're starting to cut distribution checks to him, so it's very fun for me to be able to write him checks just because of how well we're doing. So
That's awesome. I think some people sometimes when you come from, I wouldn't say wealth, but when your family can financially support you,
hmm
some people will look at that and criticize and say, "Hey, like you didn't have to like build it all from scratch." But I think in reality, all of us get help along the way,
right.
and the level of help that is accessible to us is it's not a product of our own decisions. It's just kind of the circumstances that we're put into. And
Right.
like in your case, it's not even that you're being handed anything. It's like you have to
No.
work for it.
Yeah,
And
no, I started it completely on my own. Like I said, I owned my own Kia Soul, and I bought a old beat up little compact trailer, and I bought a hitch, and I put it on my Soul, and I started picking up and delivering with that. It's pretty janky, and I was keeping stuff in my garage. Like no one gave me money to start this. I saved up some money to buy some couches, and started doing it. So, and I haven't really taken anything. The only thing that was a huge blessing was that my dad bought the box trailer, which was a huge step that I could have done myself, but he was just saying, hey, keep the cash flow. Let's try to grow this easier. But even then, like I could still be using the compact trailer. Like once I bought the truck, I could still be doing it with that. But we probably by now I would have bought another box trailer by now. But now the next step is to really get a box truck. So just to start growing in that regard. But yeah, no, nothing was really handed to me, and my dad never would anyway. He's rich, we're not rich. So it's as Shaq would say to his kids. But yeah, but I'm wealthy in terms of the mindsets that he's imparted to me. Giving me the grind, the drive, the grit. Figure it out. There's a problem, you got to figure it out, or find out who you can find to fix the problem for you. So that's been a wealth of knowledge.
With respect to the box truck, you probably would have gotten there on your own anyway. It's just,
Yeah,
to his point, save the money and let's
yeah,
accelerate faster.
exactly.
And
Get more inventory.
this is something interesting I'm seeing with this new crop of couch flippers that are entering to the game. So my outlook on the industry is this. For the past 4 or 5 years, couch flipping was more of a side hustle. People doing it out of their garages and doing it for extra income. And a couple people figured out like, hey, I'm making up enough money here that I can take this full time. But a lot of those folks haven't also taken the steps to evolve their business to the next level. In particular, diversify off of Facebook Marketplace. And so what I'm seeing right now happening is there's a crop of younger entrepreneurs that are getting into the game maybe the past year or two. And they're seeing the opportunity and they're just taking hold of it and accelerating very quickly. So if you've been doing the same thing in the same way for 4 or 5 years and your business hasn't really grown, things are probably going to get a lot tougher because more and more people are figuring out that you can make money flipping couches. And there's a big, big opportunity here that, I'll talk a little bit more about later. But you like, I don't mean this pejoratively, but like you young guys are like getting in and you're building your businesses in the right way, and you're not being content with like a certain level of success. You want more. And I can see that just in the quick interaction that we've just had, you telling me your story since March, de-risking, doing it part-time, and then making this jump going full-time in January, but taking all these steps along the way and already having an employee working with you in your operation and upgrading to a box truck, finding an investor. Right. So what are some of the most important things in the past year that you've learned in terms of growing a business?
I would say focusing on quality over quantity. One of the things I know we talked about on the phone before was making sure that you're not wasting time on low-hanging fruit that doesn't actually, provide you a lot of profit. So I don't understand why anyone would go after a couch if they can only make 50 to, $300 on it. And I've seen people say that, oh yeah, take it as money in your pocket. In reality, it's not. You have to take into account how much your time is worth. How much is your time worth? How much, how many resources are you using to expend that energy? And then what's your opportunity cost? If you spend that time chasing a $200 profit, what if you spent that same time chasing $1,000 or $1,500 or $2,000 profit? If you don't take into account the cost of your time, then you're really not making a profit. So that's been one thing that I've really changed. When I first started, I was like, okay, well, I'll get some of these smaller sectionals or these little fabric ones. I know I can make $200 on them. That was fine as I was, just getting started trying to grow cash. But as I grew, I realized, man, I can't be wasting that time on these little sales. Yes, there are like little sales in the margin that kind of help you get your numbers. But in general, my general overall strategy should be go for the big fish that I can at least get 1,000 per sectional. So I don't have any couches right now in my inventory, or I am not currently looking for any that I know I can't make at least 1,000 on. Typically I shoot for 1,500 per couch profit. So my general sales number would be around that, $1,850 to $2,500 price range. Now, granted, I know it depends on the market, and we live in a pretty good area, as far as incomes, and there's also just a higher inventory of nicer stuff too because of where I live. But But even if those numbers are slightly different wherever someone else lives, just go for the stuff that actually pays you what your time is worth. And also do the math to figure out what your time is worth. And then hire people to do anything that's not worth your time. So if you do the math and you figure out, hey, if I work 40 hours a week and I make, and you do, 4,000, $100 an hour, like just for example, you figure, hey, I need to be making $100 an hour for something to be worth my time. And then you realize that, hey, all this cleaning or all of this reconditioning I'm only basically paying myself $20 an hour to do this. You need to find someone to do that for the $20 an hour, or you need to find someone to do the pickups or deliveries for $30 an hour. And that's what's if you're working on the business and not in the business, that's how you're gonna be able to grow. I also have a lot of peers, not in couch flipping, but in a lot of other businesses. I'm part of actually, my dad's consulting business called C12 Group. And so I meet month in, month out, once a month, with like-minded CEOs and business owners that have other businesses. And we bounce ideas off of each other, bring issues, whether it's personal or business, have that accountability and have that growth mindset. And that really allows me to work on the business and not work in the business all the time. Because when you get stuck working in the business, you can kind of get stuck in the, general swing of things and not be remembering what your goal is and how you're going to achieve those goals, and not setting new goals once you've achieved those goals. You gotta have leading and lagging indicators. You gotta have, lagging goals where you set a goal way out in the future. And then you gotta have leading indicators. You gotta have small goals that help you get to that lagging goal. So if you have your leading and lagging indicators in your KPIs, is what they're called, key performance indicators. If you have your KPIs set leading and lagging, you're able to step away and look at the business from a whole and hire people for the things that aren't worth your time, you're going to grow a lot faster.
Yeah, it's an important lesson that I've learned in my journey as an entrepreneur as well. And I've always bootstrapped. This is my fifth company. And in the past, when I got out of college, I had tons of debt. I wasn't technical. I didn't have the ability to build products myself. So it was a question of like, what can I find that I can sell? I ended up running a marketing agency for about 4 years. And, with a marketing agency, the way you start that business is you go find a customer, you convince them to pay you, and then you go deliver on the project. And then hopefully that goes well. And then you can reference the work that you've done for that person and go find another customer. And there's a grind associated with that. And for a long time, the success of my business was really contingent on my own productivity. And with Ivy, since we raised some money and we've had employees along the way, when I transitioned into the role of CEO, I realized that for the first time in my entrepreneurial career, my success was going to be much more contingent on the people around me than my ability to execute. Even though as a CEO, there are times where you have to roll up your sleeves and do the work that needs to be done, especially in an early stage startup. But
Sure.
The bigger the organization, the more likely it is that, it's someone else's executional ability that is going to make the difference in growing your business is going to make the difference in growing your business and taking it to that next level. Now, something you said earlier, which is interesting to me, is that, you're targeting sectionals around $1,500 in profit margin. This is something that I've heard from multiple other flippers in Florida in particular, not Tampa, but more Fort Lauderdale, Miami area. I know quite a few flippers that are specialized in high-end furniture. Yeah. I know you're out in Bradenton, Florida, which is just south of St. Petersburg and Tampa. What kind of inventory is moving at that profit margin typically for you?
Yeah, it's going to be like your 5 to 7 seat leather sectionals.
Leather in particular.
Yeah, leather specifically. Yeah, I've kind of turned myself not into an expert, but definitely over, time, progress and, trial and error, kind of figured out the best way to recondition leather and stuff like that. I know which specific leather sectionals sell really well. There's one specific that I've sold like 10 of, that I've made anywhere from $2,000 to, 25 grand on them. So, you kind of just figure out what sells well in your market. And then, obviously there's some things that sell even better than what my normal bread and butter is. They're just not as readily available. So my goal has been, find something that consistently sells well that there's a lot of. Obviously pick up the other stuff when it becomes available, and you can make even more on those. But yeah, I would say in general, I don't know why a lot of people seem to be scared of leather. I mean, as long as it doesn't have a rip, you can pretty much recondition leather. It's pretty workable material, and it's very durable, and it's more high end. It's also timeless. It doesn't really go out of style. The configurations and style might change a little bit, but leather is high quality. People appreciate a high quality, high grain leather. And if you can, get stuff looking really good, that's a really good brand that has, a lot of life left and looks great. They're going to pay top dollar for it. And that's been my experience. Whereas fabric couches has been kind of a crapshoot, honestly. Like I'll make some good money if it's a really high end brand. Maybe like if it's a Lazy Boy or an Ethan Allen, I can typically make pretty good money. But anything like even Haverty's or less doesn't seem to sell very fast or very high margin. So Pottery Barn, Ethan Allen, Lazy Boy, I've made great money on fabric sofas and sectionals like that. But leather just seems to sell a lot better, at least in my market.
That's super, super interesting. Yeah. I've spoken to hundreds of flippers. You might be the first one that is building a business with a focus on leather sectionals.
Really?
Yeah. I know some people that like work with leather and they like leather sectionals, but you're maybe the first true specialist that I've met.
Wow. All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, hey, all I'm saying, that's just been my experience, is that at least in my area, people like leather way more. And I also get a lot, and it might be that a lot of my customers these aren't their primary residences. A lot of my customers are buying stuff for rentals or Airbnbs, and they want durable stuff. I will say there is a little more risk starting with leather because of the price point that I'm purchasing them at. I'll spend anywhere from minimum $300 to $700 to buy a leather sectional, but then I'll resell it for like 25 or 3. So, I get why some people might stick away from them just because the initial purchase price might seem higher than what they're used to. But I kind of got over myself when I started realizing, okay, even if I buy it for 500, I can still sell it for $2,000 and at least make 1,500 on it.
Yeah.
That's interesting that you said no one else is really focused on leather. I just see it like just look at the numbers. You go into a furniture store, the leather ones are way more expensive. Why wouldn't you go for those?
Absolutely. There is a direct correlation between leather and quality. And it's because the price per square foot of top grain leather is extremely high. And so you're not just going to put that on a shoddy infrastructure, right? Whereas if you get like some synthetic fabric that's extremely cheap to manufacture, you could put that on like extremely weak and non-durable wood. Basically we could put cheap synthetic fabric on like light pine, just something with like an inferior frame, something that probably is going to come shipped to you in a box. But there's no way that you're going to do that if you're paying for top grain leather. That thing is going to come pretty much assembled and delivered to you. And so when you're working with top grain leather sectionals, like you're pretty much getting quality. It doesn't make sense with respect to material to have an inferior quality product.
Yeah, and I will say, I didn't mention this before, but primarily most all of my leather sectionals are Italian leather. Italian leather sells way better than pretty much anything else.
Do you think there's something to do with the weather in Florida and the preference for leather sectionals as well?
I don't know. I don't think I'm not sure if weather has anything to do with it. It might. I will say I think weather might have to do with certain people not liking leather because of how humid it can be here in Florida. Sometimes, if you want to sit on your couch without a shirt on, it gets sticky. So I can understand why some people dislike leather because of the weather. I don't think there's any reason why they would prefer leather due to our climate, but that's definitely something interesting that I haven't really thought about. I think it has more to do with just the status that leather comes with, at least in our area. Having a high-end leather sectional is just a higher status than having a high-end fabric, at least as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I always grew up with leather couches, so I was used to them. And but they're that's why it's a more expensive option to get leather in your car than it is to get fabric. It's more durable, it's easier to clean, it lasts longer. I'm tired of buying, and just personally in general, I'm tired of buying cheap stuff now. I'm tired of buying cheap stuff that doesn't last, that breaks down, that doesn't, do what I want it to do for a long time. I'd rather spend the extra money now, buy something that's more durable, higher quality, that's going to last me longer, and I end up saving money because I don't have to buy it twice or three times during the lifetime of how a higher quality piece would last.
That's a great pitch.
Well, it's pretty common sense. I get that it's just more money in the beginning, but if you're able to swallow and just buy it, you're going to be happier with it in the long run.
So tell me about your process for selecting leather couches, and once you pick it up, processing them and making it and preparing it for resale. Because I'm sure anyone that's listening to the pod right now who's curious about leather are going to have some questions about, like, how do I get into this for myself?
Yeah. So obviously, once we find a piece, whether it's on Marketplace or OfferUp or Craigslist or wherever we find it, through our group or through ads looking for couches, I always ask, does it have any rips, scratches, fading, odors, etc. And if it has scratches, I know I can fix it. If it has odors, then I ask, if it's ever been smoked on, I don't touch it. I won't touch anything that's been smoked on. Odors in general, like dog smell, I can typically get that out, but most of the time we'll say again.
Why won't you touch a leather couch that has been smoked on?
This has been my experience. I've tried two of them. I have done everything possible to try to get the smell out. It just doesn't work. But once it seeps into the grain of the leather, it's like really hard to get off for whatever reason. And part of the reason also is what I've experienced with leather that's been smoked on. If a lot of leather couches, the cushions are not removable. So for a decent number, well, a good bit of them, they are removable, but for a good bit of them, they aren't. And if it's gotten down into the cracks and you can't properly clean it or extract it somehow, it's just very hard to clean them properly. And there's always still that slight smell. And plus, I built my brand around only having high quality stuff that's in really good condition. So the second anything has a smell to it, I'm hurting my brand more than the potential of making a couple $100 on it. So that's why I've kind of just stuck, cleared away from anything that's been smoked on personally.
Right. Yeah, it is, it is possible to remove the the smell of smoke. Mm-hmm. It is possible to remove smoke odors from certain types of couches, but it seems particularly difficult with leather couches.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've never really tried with fabric couches. I've never really picked up a fabric couch that had smoke on it, but I'd imagine it'd probably be a little easier to get it out. But leather, it's like, you can't just throw it in the washing machine 100 times, right? You can't, there's a very specific method, or as I'll get to, for cleaning and stuff like that. So it's not just as simple as getting a smoke smell out by throwing it in a washing machine or something, which I'm sure could help. So
understood. Well, sorry for the detour. I cut you off. Yeah, please keep going.
Yeah. So once we identify a product, we'll go there. I'll double check it, just make sure like they said, it doesn't have any rips. Even if it has like small scratching, I can fix that. If it has any fading, I can definitely fix that. All I'm really making sure is, number one, is it a high quality brand? I'll Google it beforehand and make sure I find that the original MSRP or retail price is at least over $3,000. It needs to be at least over $3,000, otherwise I'm typically not making money. So if it's at least over $3,000, really shooting for $5,000 to $7,000. My bread and butter couch that I've sold like 10 times retails for like $64.99, $7,000 with tax. So I'll look it up before I even go there and make sure that there's more profit margin to be made. I'll check it out, do a once over. If I like it, we'll take it. Then we just take it back to our storage units. Worst case scenario, if it has a bunch of scratching, a bunch of fading, if it has a bunch of dog hair, it's real dirty. We have taken a couple that have been in rough shape, but some of those have been the ones that we make the most profit on, because we'll get it for like $100 or $250 and then resell it for $25. But yeah, so first things first, they go through a cleaning process. So we'll shop back them, make sure there's no hairs, make sure, we shop back it as much as we possibly can. If the cushions are removable, we'll take the cushions off. We'll actually kind of use our pre-spray that we would use on a fabric couch on the fabric liner, of the sectionals, and then we'll drill brush. We don't typically extract unless they really need it on the fabric portions of the undersides. But we'll typically drill brush. That typically gets them looking pretty perfect. And then as far as the cushions go, we use Wyman leather conditioner. We spray, and then we actually use drill brush. We found drill brush actually does a good job getting all the dirt and grime out of the cracks of the leather. So we'll drill brush, wipe down. Sometimes we'll do two rounds of drill brush and 2 rounds of wiping down with the Wyman leather conditioner. And then once they're completely clean, that's when we go into the coloring portions. We use leather coloring cream and balm. We try to make sure it matches as close as possible. Sometimes we have to mix and match a few colors to get the right color. But my process, or my thought process on it, has always been less is more. The less we can condition, or the less we can color to make it match, the less work we have to do, because we don't have to color the whole thing. And then honestly, the better it looks. So that's been one of the things I've been training my employee on, is like just not using so much coloring when we're trying to recolor a couch. But less is more. We, obviously use the filler to fill in scratches and stuff like that. And as far as like the cosmetic issues go, that's really what most of my customers care about. They just want it to look good. They know they're buying something quality because they know what the original retail price of it was. They know that it's a reputable brand that has high quality, good framing. A lot of the stuff that we have even has a little bit of metal in the framing. So, it's built to last. Then at that point, all they really care about is that there's nothing obviously wrong with it, that there's nothing cosmetically ugly about it. And if you do a good job coloring and reconditioning it, you can make it look pretty much brand new. So that's kind of what we do. We put it through coloring, and then I always apply, once that's dried, I always apply mink oil to the whole couch to give it kind of that gloss and shine that you would see in a showroom, and then we take pictures. And then I use, a photo room to make AI backgrounds, and then I list them.
So when you're doing the recoloring, how do you match the balm? It's a balm, right?
Yeah, it's a cream. It's kind of a cream, but yeah.
How do you ensure that the cream is the right color for the couch? Do you test it on like a small portion of fabric? Yeah.
Most of the time, I like the couches. At this point, I've done so many that I kind of get a lot of the same ones, and I know exactly which colors to use. A lot of funny enough, you would think dark brown is kind of out, but dark brown has been kind of like what we've sold a lot of, and that's really easy to hide slight color discolorations. So like, if it's a dark brown base couch and you use a dark brown leather filler or conditioner or balm, it blends in really well, and it kind of just fills in. But like, there is one specific couch I can think of that we have right now that's it's this big lazy boy refining sectional leather, and it's kind of like almost a brown maroon kind of color. It's not maroon, but it's not definitely not dark brown, and you can tell a big difference. So in that regard, at this point, I think I have multiple jars of every possible color from the distributor that we use. And so, just kind of get a paper plate, take a scoop of each one, kind of start mixing it until you kind of match that color, and try to make a lot of it so that you don't have to try to make that twice, and then just start applying it. So, but that's typically what we'll end up doing. And there are some instances where, we just can't get an exact color. And at that point, we just, obviously we don't sell anything to a customer without them having full awareness of everything wrong with it. So if there's a small scuff somewhere and we just couldn't get a color to match it, we'll obviously point it out. But most of the time they're okay with that if it's not somewhere like super obvious. So, but yeah, in general, trying to find the right color, it's kind of a little bit of trial and error, but also just experience. And once you've done it a few times, you kind of know what to do. So.
Yeah, I think that's part of the reason that there aren't more people flipping leather sectionals, is just there's a risk associated with it, and they don't know, how to recondition and refurbish that couch. Whereas with fabric sectionals, it is a little bit simpler, right? You give it a vacuum, the covers are removable, throw it in the wash, and then extract the couch. Pretty much it. But there is this additional complexity dealing with leather, and a need to get the right materials as well. And those materials can be costly.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, each jar of cream I buy is like $30. So, I mean, at this point, it seems like a drop in the bucket for me, but but I know that then I'm going to turn that into thousands of dollars of profit. So it's not that hard to put that money in, but.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's all risk reward, right?
Yep.
People know that there's a reward associated with flipping a big leather sectional, but there's also a risk. And until you take that first step and flip your first leather sectional and see what that's like for yourself, you don't quite understand what you're getting into. Is this worth putting $700 into?
Right. Yep.
But your story can help other people understand, hey, there is an opportunity here,
Definitely.
and maybe you should take that first step, Similarly to, I had a guy on the podcast the other day who has invested in a showroom. One of the first things he did, he jumped right in, just as you did. He got a showroom and built out three beautiful staging areas. And I know for a lot of flippers, they're sort of on the fence. Should I get a warehouse? Should I get a showroom? Should I build out a staging area? There's costs associated with that. But that's the level of risk that you have to take as an entrepreneur if you see an opportunity to seize it and, be able to capitalize.
Yeah, no, and 100%, I'm totally with that guy. That's my next goal, obviously, right now as we're growing. Um, Here, real estate values are very high, so pricing for rent for warehouse space is extremely expensive. I'm only spending around a grand a month for four good sized 10 by 25 units, and then a small one for all of our equipment. But I'm just doing the math. I need to get to like 8 to 10 units before it even makes sense financially to have a warehouse space. As far because I want something around 3,500 to 4,000 square feet, and right now in this market, you can't really find anything for less than $1.50 a square foot. So unless you want to see all that profit kind of heading towards rent, it kind of makes sense to kind of grow at that pace. But 100%, the minute we do get a warehouse or a showroom space, we're going to be building out some custom staging areas as well. Not that I don't like photo room, but it's just not as good as having a physical staging. So 100% right on it for that guy. I'd love to do that here soon. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's, photo room. It helps in a pinch.
Yep.
I think the thing that you'll find when you make that investment into the warehouse / showroom is that it's not just a matter of space, it's the ability to utilize that space as well. And so what you're paying in terms of dollar per square foot is going to work as leverage for you as you try to grow the business, because now you're able to move around more efficiently. Maybe it helps bring in a different type of clientele that you normally wouldn't have access to. It's going to generally help you move those couches faster. So the whole is greater than the sum of the parts, if you will.
For sure. For sure. Yeah, I mean, there's so many advantages to having it all in a singular space. I know there are, and that's been one of the things my dad's been pushing me to try to grow as fast as we can so that we can get to that space. He's even thinking that we should probably buy something and then lease it to the business, and then if we ever wanted to move to a bigger space, we could just find another tenant. So we might end up trying to buy something too. Obviously, that's not everyone has that opportunity, but if we're able to buy, then then I know I have a great landlord for the business, as well as have the ability to lease it out in the future if we move to a different location.
Yeah, I really like your dad.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
He's a smart guy.
He is.
Now, your dad wants you to move quickly. That's something that seems to be a recurring theme. Now, in your conversations with them, why this importance on speed?
Because cash cures all. The faster you can bring in revenue and cash, the one of the things I've learned in the books that I've read too that he's had me read is if you have the money to fix a problem, you don't have a problem. If you think about it, that's true. Like think about it, like my car just broke down or my AC went out of my truck this past week. But I had the money to fix it. I don't really have a problem anymore. It only becomes a problem if you don't have the money to solve the problem. I only have the problem of not finding a warehouse if I don't have the money to pay for the warehouse. I only have a problem of not being able to market if I don't have the money to pay for the marketing. I don't have the problem of having all this cleaning to do if I have the money to hire someone and pay them to do it. So the idea of speed is the faster I can churn these couches and turn it into cash in my pocket, the faster I can solve all these other problems. That's kind of why we've been trying to push to go faster and faster. Not to mention as far as businesses go, couch flipping is a very low risk business. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm out $700. All right, fine. I'll just make it on the next one. So it's not like I'm putting in thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on each transaction. So if I mess up on one, oh well, move on. Go as fast as I possibly can, doing it well with quality, and cash is going to kind of cure a lot of the problems that you're going to have along the way.
Yeah, I agree. And What I've noticed with a lot of flippers who have these aspirations to grow bigger businesses, but just haven't taken the steps to get there, is
Hmm.
that a lot of them don't have the right risk tolerance. So they're not making investments into their business when they should. And at a certain level, maybe they're just comfortable with the money coming in, and that's what they're in search for, and that's what they want. They want a comfortable lifestyle, but that's what creates problems for them, leading to more discomfort. So, for example, it's like, okay, this is your lifestyle hustle, or this is your lifestyle business, and you're content with making, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 grand a month, but then you have a bad month and that money doesn't come in. And now you're living on the margins in terms of expenses, or you inevitably run into a problem like your truck breaks down and then your business is out of commission for 2 weeks and you have no income flowing in and times get tough. But if you were making $30,000 a month or $40,000 a month, then these smaller inconveniences are less inconvenient. So it's really, really important to have that acceleration, to have the right risk appetite, to be making those investments in your business because you'll have more cash flow and it'll be easier to deal with the problems along the way. But that means when you start, you need to go hard. You need to go hard and fast, and you really can't be content sitting at 5K a month.
Exactly. No, definitely not. Yeah. I mean, so in January, just starting full time, I, made about 10 grand in January. And, that was good for me, but, it was fun, and it was fine, but it's nowhere near where we need to be. We need to be, and that's another thing that I recommend is reading the book 10X is Easier Than 2X by Dan Sullivan. It's a total mindset shift. But, think about it this way. All right. So if I'm doing, if I'm on track after January, just, do 120,000, what I really, or let's just for a round number, make it 100,000. So if I'm on track to make 100,000, my goal should be to 10X, not 2X. Because when you try to 2 times your revenue, you do everything the same, but more of it. And that's a problem because you're never going to be able to grow at the rate you need to by just trying to do more of what you're already doing. But if you change your mindset and say, "Hey, I need to go 10x. I need to go from 100,000 to 1 million." There's no way you can get to 1 million doing what you're doing, just more of it. You don't have the time, you don't have the people, you don't have any way to do that. So when you change your mindset from a 2x to a 10x mindset, you have to totally change the way you're doing everything. So like that's what I'm starting to work on is say, okay, I did 10 grand, but I need to be doing, 20. I need to be doing, 100,000 per month. So what am I need to do to totally drastically change what I'm doing now to hit that 10x? And what you'll find is, rarely ever do you get that 10x instantly, and it might take a few years, but you're definitely going to get higher and further along than if you're just planning to double every year. If you're just planning to double, you might do it, but it's just going to be time consuming, difficult, and you're going to feel stretched.
That's a great point about mindset. And in practicing that mindset, what are some of the practical things that you have come up with in terms of how you need to improve your business in the rest of 2024?
Honestly, like I said before, just hiring the right people. I know that I can't do this by myself. I don't have the time. Neither do I want to do it. I don't really want to be doing all this stuff by myself. It's way easier and way faster and more efficient, and in the end, more cost effective to find the right who's and not try to figure out how to do it. So I'd say, especially as the year progresses, I would consider this to be a good year. If by the end of this year, not even like a revenue target, but I would like to have at least, 5 full-time employees. If I get 5 full-time employees to take a lot of that stuff off of my plate, then I would consider this year to be a success.
One thing you were saying earlier that I found really interesting is that a lot of your customers are the owners of Airbnb properties and
Mm-hmm.
apartment buildings that are offering fully furnished units. Now, that might be a unique aspect to your market, but it sounds like you found a target demographic
Oh, definitely.
for your furniture. So tell me more about that. Like what is the rental
Yeah,
like?
well, I just kind of stumbled into it on accident. I wasn't trying to, but I just started realizing, like, as I was talking to customers, that like I had 4 or 5 customers back to back to back that were all from Michigan, furnishing a second home that they were going to Verbo or Airbnb. And I just started thinking, man, I almost should be like running ads up north, like for second homeowners that, need to furnish or want to find something that they don't want to pay brand new for, but they also want something quality that's not going to get beat up or break down when they have renters. So that was kind of something that I just kind of stumbled into, but realized, gosh, this could be a pretty good market opportunity for me because there are a lot of people that vacation to Florida. Sarasota is a very big vacation destination. So there are a lot of vacation rentals. There are a lot of short-term rentals and Airbnbs. So just kind of starting to market, selling to owners of those properties has been huge. I've gotten a lot of sales from people like that.
So as a former marketing agency owner, of course you understand the importance of messaging.
Yeah, yeah.
And so if you're speaking to everyone, you're speaking to no one.
Right. You got to be specific about your niche. Yeah.
If you're trying to communicate to everyone, you're communicating to no one. And that's, something that we took to heart as we, our software can be used for anything. It can be used to search for any and everything, but we are pretty specific to couch flipping at the moment. And for the purpose of communication, especially when you're first starting out with a business, it's really important to be intentional about who your target demographic is and how you're communicating to them. And unfortunately, this is a little bit, it seems simple, but it can be complex in practice. I think especially for couch flippers who, they'll take any deal and they'll try to sell it to any customer. So definitely an important lesson for couch flippers that are looking to level up their game, really understand your target demographic and how to communicate with them. Now, given your target demographic, and maybe you have others as well, what are some of the ways that you have shifted your approach to communicate or market to that demographic?
Definitely the Facebook group has been a big game changer ever since I learned about that from Dylan and the podcast. I started doing that. It's been growing. I've been getting a lot of customers through that. Increasing my marketing spend on boosts and actually doing custom, because in my previous digital marketing agency, we did primarily, custom Facebook ads. So I've been doing some more custom Facebook ads, growing my group, as well as the specific products that we sell, as well as promoting the business, doing general engagement campaigns, as well as conversion campaigns and group join campaigns. So that's been good, as well as just on, boots on the ground, connecting with realtors, connecting with staging companies, and for inventory purposes, as well as sales. Because they have connections with buyers that need to furnish, and they have connections with sellers that need to get rid of stuff, or connections with sellers that need staging equipment to sell their home. So as far as finding those that are, furnishing second homes, still trying to piece that together, how's best to target those specific people, whether it is running campaigns in northern states or whether it's, honestly, that's kind of been my idea so far. But if there's some better ideas, I'm sure some of the listeners can shoot me over ideas, but it would be great to be able to tackle a market like that in a little more poignant fashion. So,
yeah, one thing I've noticed is a lot of the demand for couch flipping in 2024 is driven by this travel culture that we have and sort of the transient nature of housing in modern day America. So 40, 60 years ago, let's say, if you lived in one city, you probably stayed in that city. People tended to marry where they grew up, and they tended to live where they grew up and were born. But fast forward to 2024, there's a lot of intra-city and intra-state mobility now. And we've shifted from a society that where residences were primarily based on home ownership to a tenancy-based society instead. So there's a lot more people that are looking for short-term housing arrangements, whether it be like Airbnb for travel or, just a year as they check out a new city, as opposed to someone who's going to buy a house and live in that place for the rest of their lives. And of course, there are still people that, buy homes and live in one location for a long time, but we're definitely trending more towards a intrastate mobile society. And the result of that is there's a lot more used furniture floating around that ends up in the landfill as a result, because people are moving and the half-life of their couch, instead of being 8 years before they need to replace it, maybe is only 2-3 years because they have to move and they don't want to bring that heavy, bulky thing with them. And this is why I think there's such a big opportunity in getting into the game of couch flipping today, because there's an industry that's emerging here. because we solve a very big problem in helping these tenants, a growing market, one of the, a huge market. Tenants solve a very big problem, which is they have tons of bulky furniture that they can't bring with them. It's inconvenient. They can't haul it to the dump. They don't have a truck. They don't want to pay a junk removal company. They can't even donate it to a nonprofit because they'll get charged a haul away fee. And so they turn to Facebook Marketplace to try and liquidate this inventory. But now they're on Facebook Marketplace, and we all know how that is. You're dealing with scammers and flakes, and it's just a hassle. So a flipper can come in and add value to this equation by offering a seamless pickup process. And then they add value by cleaning, storing, and staging that couch, making it available to the next customer. And the next person who's moving into that apartment, instead of having to get that cheap Wayfair, IKEA, or Amazon couch, which we were just talking about, cheap fabric, section synthetic fabrics on like plywood frames, they can get high grain, top grain leather on metal frames from high-end brands at a fraction of retail. And flippers are uniquely enabling the value that is left over in these couches to be accessible to the next person. This is a huge problem in our society. And that's what the problem that flippers are solving, and why I think there's a big opportunity here. Now, the issue is that people don't know flippers exist. They don't know that there's a community or an industry forming here. Not yet, but they will over the next couple of years. That's my prediction. There are antique or there are secondhand furniture stores that are sort of remnants of old times. Maybe they existed in the 1970s and 80s. And you walk around, you see a couple of them, but they operate in a very outdated format. First of all, they have these, large, dusty brick and mortars, and they're probably getting their inventory through estate sales, truckload at the time. And they're not directly enabling individual people who are looking to get rid of their couches to come interact with them in a tech-enabled way. They're sort of clunky and outdated, and maybe if you give them a call, they'll pick up during store hours, or maybe they miss that call and you can never get a hold of them. And this new generation of couch flippers, what they're doing is tech first, because it started on Facebook Marketplace, and they tend to be more tech savvy, and they know the importance of building an online first business, the importance of online connectivity. And so it's like secondhand furniture 2.0. And that's the movement that's happening right now. And the thing about new markets that get created that solve big problems, when you get into those markets early, you have a pretty good chance at making some good money.
Yeah, for sure.
Like we raised some venture capital, and in VC venture capitalists, they want to invest in markets that are big and growing. I know this firsthand because for my previous company, I tried raising money, and we had money, like we were profitable, and we had customers, we had product, we had everything, but we're just not in a very interesting market in terms of what VCs were interested in 2020 and 2021. We switched over to financial technology, and we raised money very quickly because fintech was very hot and the market was very hot at the time that we were raising. It's because they know that an average entrepreneur in a really good market is probably more likely to be successful than a really great entrepreneur in a shit market.
Right.
So that's the thing that's super interesting about what we're involved in right now. And on these Facebook groups, that I think that's the main hub for the couch flipping community, is this one Facebook group, right? People they're feeling the pain. And I know they're feeling the pain because they blame me for it.
That's so funny when I see people complaining about it. I'm like,
yeah, it's my fault. Yeah. I mean, like I
use the product. If you're complaining about nothing being, use the product then.
Yeah. It's like I dictate the economy. Okay. Well, I wish I was that influential. I wish, please. But anyhow, but I hear people complaining that things are getting more competitive. And it is, if you have not diversified off of Facebook Marketplace. If that is still your bread and butter, you're only sourcing on Facebook Marketplace, you're only selling on Facebook Marketplace, then of course as more people try to get into the game of flipping couches, and you're competing for the same inventory and you're competing for sales in the same distribution channel, yes, it's going to be harder, and you're going to need technology as a leg up to be successful at that game. But that's not the real opportunity either. And so it's a little contradictory, but as the CEO of a sourcing software company, my message to people is you should get off of our sourcing software, right? You should not be reliant on my sourcing software to find every deal that you need in order to grow your business. You need to build your own brand. You need to build your own audience. You need to have your own distribution in a way that is not totally reliant on Facebook Marketplace. Use Facebook Marketplace today because it's there and it gives you a low barrier to entry. It gives you a low barrier to entry method of connecting to an audience of interested sellers and buyers, but treat every interaction as an opportunity to grow your audience. So every person that messages you on a listing, that's an opportunity to let them know, hey, you exist. Everyone that buys a couch from you, everyone that sells a couch to you, these are all, people that are now a part of your network that you can now have a direct relationship with. And on top of that, you can do all these other things like marketing to them. And if you have a marketing background such as yourself, then, that becomes even easier. One thing about your story that I really like, and you're not the only person that I've seen across the country with this mindset, is just the agility and the acceleration here. So it's like you're doing it part-time for a little bit. You saw the opportunity, you de-risked. You're like, okay, this is working. Then you jumped in full-time. But along the way, you've done a lot of things the right way. Like you already have a brand. You've incorporated as an LLC, or there's some sort of corporate structure here, right? Actually, and I did want to ask you about that, but let's in just a second. But you've incorporated. You're doing your books correctly. You're operating. You're treating the business as if it's a real business. You have a brand. You have social media. You have advertising. You're running pickup ads. You're developing relationships with the broader community. You're not just flipping on Facebook Marketplace. You're building a real business. And that is what it's going to take to be successful as a couch flipper in the years to come. And I think you're positioned really well for some success.
Awesome. Yeah, no, obviously, I don't understand why some people would not even tell customers or sellers that they're a company. Like you said, every interaction you have is a way to increase your network. They could have referrals for you down the road. So, boosting your brand and really creating a business, doing your books right, doing everything legit allows you to scale. And in the future, it allows you to use these records as actual capital gains in your income so that you can finance other ventures, whether it's real estate or what have you. So like if you're keeping everything off the books, then you're never going to be able to buy anything in the future. So that is just one common sense reason why we're doing everything legit, but not to mention, you want to have a legal business.
Right. It's a little it's penny wise, pound foolish, right? Because it saves you some money in the short term. You're not paying taxes. Okay. I'm not here to, cast judgment on anyone. I don't know their economic situation and what their needs are, but long term, it will only hurt you. You're absolutely right. If you don't have income that you can prove in the books to financial institutions, to the government, you have pretty much zero shot at securing a loan or securing, capital for your next venture or, improvements to your business. So that stuff needs to be on the books. Now you have a pretty, you've taken it a step further, which is very interesting in that you have your LLC, it's an LLC, and you're drawing salary from the LLC, which is different than how a lot of couch flippers operate, right? Basically, whatever their profits are for the month, like their net profits for the month is, what they're putting in their pocket. And maybe there's not even that much of a distinction in that a lot of couch flippers don't even have a business checking account. It's all commingled with their personal finances. But you've taken the step to, have very clear separation.
Yeah. And that was easy for me to do because I had already done that with my marketing agencies. So I kind of already knew what to do in that regard for this. So it was kind of easy in that regard. But yeah, the way we do pay and everything is number one, we make sure there's enough money in the checking account to draw my salary at the beginning of the month. And then obviously pay bills throughout the month, add revenue, add money to the accounts. And then at reconciliation at the end of the month, we figure out how much profit we had, what distributions would go to me, what distributions go to my partner, and then and then money into the slush fund for either further expansion or rainy day cash. So we kind of go through that process every month.
How do the distributions work? And the reason I
So
bring this up is there are probably couch flippers that can and should go seek out an investor.
mhm,
And they need to know how to structure the terms because, I've seen people post randomly on Facebook, "Hi, I'm looking for an investor." Okay, what am I investing in? Right?
sure,
What's the business plan? How do I get paid back?
right,
And in reality, they're not looking for an investor; they're looking for a loan, right?
yeah,
So, but you're the way that you're structured, it's a legit investment, and
yeah,
he's getting distributions. So,
exactly.
explain that. Yeah.
Yeah, so like for the money that he's put in, obviously he has to be okay with maybe, sitting on that investment for a little bit as we ramp up, but he's obviously looking at it in terms of a long-term investment and growing, as we grow. But basically the way we do those are, we've agreed, at least we're doing it on a year by year basis. So obviously as the business grows, pays will increase, hopefully as the business grows. But we sat down, we agreed upon a salary based on what I need to be making basically to get by, plus, a little extra for some, ease of mind. So basically just figure out what my expenses are, pay myself a salary first, and then whatever's left after overhead, after all of our expenses are paid in the business, we take that last percentage. I'm a Christian, so we tithe the business as a business. We tithe for the business, so we take 10% to tithe, and then we take the rest. 20% we put into savings for future expansion or rainy day fund, and then after that, we take the rest of it. We split it 51-49% as checks to myself and my partner.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And also, I think you're probably the first couch flipper I've talked to with that kind of corporate structure in how you're dealing with your
I mean,
finances as
honestly,
well.
I can't take too much credit for it. That was pretty much my dad and his accounting team putting that together. But I do understand how it works. So
Yeah, no,
it's
and that's
definitely
important. That's important
yeah,
because like they came up with the strategy, but you've implemented it, and now
right,
you're sharing that with the community. Now other people can listen in. Oh, this might be a good idea. This might be a structural fit for me, and there are some advantages to being able to do it that way, particularly if you're interested in seeking an investor.
right. Yeah,
And
like you said, investors want to know how they're going to be making money. They once you can show them like your track record by having books, you can show them, I'm profiting 15 to 20,000 a month, or in my case, I'm profiting, 10 to 15 a month after expenses, with this investment to help us grow to buy a box truck or buy a warehouse or something like that. That investment that I'm going to use to do that is going to render this amount of profit paid out via distributions after expenses at the end of each month. So tangible ROI versus, oh, just giving this money and hopefully we grow. And then, you can, purchase equity in the business. One of the things that my dad wanted to make sure we did was not have two bosses. So it's not a 50-50 split. There is one head honcho, which is me. I make the final decision because like true partnerships hardly ever work. Because if you both equally have 50% control, what if you disagree on something? You might not think it's going to happen, but it'll eventually happen. So there has to be someone that's technically the boss who makes the final decision. And then after that, and that should be the business owner. And then after that, if you do want like a partnership, it should always just be after salary, after expenses. You want to make sure, and one of the things my dad always said was he never wants me to feel like I'm doing all the work and not getting properly reimbursed for it. So that's one of the main reasons we set up salary, so that it never feels like, okay, like all other flippers, we look at the end of the month, we just have our net profit and then we split it. Because then that makes me feel like he's not doing anything except supplying cash in the background versus, I'm doing all this work to make it. So that's why we do the distributions after salary. So I always have my set salary, and then anything over that, which still gives me, incentive to grow, because I still get 51% of those distributions at the end of it. So obviously it depends on the investor, and they have to be okay with, with that kind of structure. But I would say a lot of them are, because they want to make sure that you're set up to succeed. Now, investors aren't going to want to take too much of the pie and then see the business crumble because you can't, cash flow correctly and stay afloat. So they want to see that there's healthy growth and that they're taking healthy returns without bankrupting the business. And that's the way we do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you raise money as an entrepreneur, whether it's, an angel or private equity or venture, or, the sort of corporate structure that you have, you're getting, in essence, you're getting paid to be an entrepreneur, which is, it's a good place to be, as opposed to bootstrapping the entire time, right? But and that's a key part of the consideration, in that you have opportunity cost. I could go work a job and make way more money than I am right now, even as a CEO of this company. I take salary, of course, but relative to my overall opportunity, right? And there has to be enough keeping me afloat, for me to meet my financial needs as I build the thing that has potentially huge upside, which will generate returns for everyone involved. And so knowing how much salary to take, so that, you're taken care of, but you're still hungry for that next big thing as well, is really important, and a key consideration when contemplating whether or not you should take on investors and how to structure those deals.
Yeah, no, for sure. 100% agree. The CEO has to be taken care of. And obviously, starting out, like, and I find myself in this situation, we're still trying to make sure that we hit payroll, trying to make sure that we cover expenses and are able to save some money. But, like you said, if you're just hovering at that, $5,000 to $10,000 range, what if you have a bad month? Like that's a problem. So, we're still in that phase of trying to grow. I want to be at, 20. I want to be at 50. I want to be at, that'd be really awesome. We get to like 50,000 a month, which I think is doable with enough inventory. But, we just got to figure out, am I set up to cash flow this correctly to be okay? And then how do we grow it from that point on? And one of the things that we've kind of done the math on to try to figure out is what my churn rate is, or what my sell-through rate is, based on the number of couches I have. So like I've kind of figured out that on a monthly basis, I'll sell in like, it's actually more than a month. It's more like in a 3-week basis. If I have 12 for sale, I'll sell 6. Or if I have 15 for sale, I'll sell 8 or 7. So like that, as we've kind of done the math and researched over the last few months of business, we've tried to figure out, okay, how many do we need to have for sale, or how many do we need to have in order to hit our goal of, 10K or of 20K or of 30K? And then go out and get that inventory, go out and get that space that we need to house that inventory. And so when you reverse engineer it and do the math backwards to figure out what you need to do to get to where you want to go, it's way easier than being like, well, I hope we sell a lot this month, or I hope like things just sell quickly. If you look at it, big picture view from the sky, you see, okay, I know I sell at least 50% of all inventory that I have available over a 3-week runway. So I just need to increase my inventory. I need to increase, and that's what my dad's really been pushing me to do, is just increase inventory, move as fast as we can, get as much inventory as we can, start moving into new furniture, start ordering, shipments. Just let's increase our inventory so that we can increase our revenue.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. It's a good way to put it, that sales are a function of inventory. So first off, flippers will complain about having a bad month or having a bad week. Oh, I sold nothing this week. I sold nothing this month. And really, you're selling used couches. It's a commodity product. And there's always demand for couches. It's simply a question of, do you have the right inventory at the right time to meet the demand that's in the market? And then obviously have visibility for that inventory as well. Mm-hmm. So if you have 50 couches, there's going to be less variability in your business than if you had 5 couches, because you have 10 times more at-bats to get a couch into someone's house. And so being able to have more inventory, to have more cash flow, makes the business more consistent and reliable.
Yeah, and you save sales too. Like, I can't tell you how many times, In the last 50 sales, I can't tell you how many times a customer would come to look at one couch, didn't quite fit their needs, but because I had other ones, they chose a different one. And I save a sale, whereas I wouldn't have a sale if I didn't have more inventory for them to select from. So I only know that that's going to drastically increase as I drastically increase my inventory.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Hey, Alec, it's been a pleasure chatting with you. This has been a great conversation. I know that we could keep going on, but hats off to what you've been able to accomplish in just a little bit of time. I think I'd like to give your dad some props too. Sounds like a really cool
For sure.
guy. You got
Yeah.
a great mentor in him, and I'm looking forward to what you can do in your career as a couch flipper moving forward.
Awesome. Thanks, man. You too.
All right, thank you.